Make this easy watercolor teacup card with me start to finish.
Okay, so real quick, supplies. I am using this printable with all the little teacups on it, and we're going to make a transfer with them. And then we are using just a piece of mixed media Strathmore paper. I like this because it's pretty thick and sturdy. And then I am using really, really cheap watercolors. These are like $5. You do not need fancy watercolors to make a cute little fodder, and some brushes and just a regular pencil. And I'm using a regular pencil on purpose because if you don't have any drawing pencils around, you can use a regular pencil. All right, let's get to it. All right, so I picked out the teacup that I want to trace and I'm just coloring on the back of it. I'm sure we've all done this at some point in elementary school, and it's a tried and true method. So I just scribbled on the back of it and I'm tracing over it to get the impression on the piece of mixed media paper, and then going over the top to put in some little scallops. I'm obsessed with scallops right now. So they're going on everything. And I just took some pink watercolor and started filling it in. And if you're not familiar with watercolor, like you're an absolute beginner, there's wet on wet and there's wet on dry. And so you can start with wet on dry, which was what I did. I just started with some little watercolor and then painted it on. And then once you put that first layer of paint on, you are now doing wet on wet. And what happens is you just get this really beautiful mixy. I am by no means a watercolor expert. I am really just playing around with colors here and putting in what I like. One of the keys, like basic color theory, is if you're going to use cool colors, then pick cool colors. If you want to use warm colors, use warm colors, and it's going to come out looking really cool. After it dried, I went in with some colored pencils. Again, this is nothing fancy. I am just decided where the shadows would be on my fictitious cup and started filling in just some of the darker areas. And again, I just picked some colors that were similar to the paint colors I used and, darkened them up in some places. And
It's kind of made it look like it sort of follows the laws of physics. It's art. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't necessarily have to make sense. But I'm pretty satisfied with what came out. I really love doing this. It's just so fun, doodly, and it doesn't take long. It's very relaxing. And one of the things I want to point out, if you are unfamiliar with colored pencils, the beauty of them is that they layer, and the more you layer, the cooler the effect is. And what you want to do at the end, which I'll show you in just a second after I put these adorable little polka dots on with my Posca marker, is you're going to do what's called burnishing. And it just kind of is this final layer of mixiness on the colored pencils, and it just kind of brings the whole thing together, and it softens the pencil marks and just makes it go a little bit more finished. So once I was done with that, I just cut it out and it becomes a piece of collage fodder. And you could use like an X-Acto blade to cut out the inside of the little handle, but since it's getting glued down, I'm not too worried about it. You really can't tell once you finish it. And I just feel like it's a lot easier. So now we're going to turn it into a card. Hey, editing Maggie here. So I completely forgot to tell you in my initial recording of this that this project is part of the May Craft and Collage Club subscription. So we're doing this project along with several others that you can check out in the comments. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. And I'm just using some of the scraps in my scrap bin that are from the May 2026 subscription box that you can find out more about in the comments. And I wanted to keep this one really simple. I really love this bottom piece of paper here. And as you can tell, I love polka dot. And that top piece is actually a piece of the bags that come with a lot of the things I sell in my shop, because I want everything to be reusable, and they're so cute, and they're not glossy in any way, so you can mark all over them and make some really fun things with them. They make cool scraps. Let's use the rule of thirds on this and trimmed it up a bit, and you'll see in a second I have a really fun little punch that does the cutest little pattern. I am so in love with it. I've been using it on everything, and I thought it would add a little cuteness and whimsy at the top. So one thing I learned is that the marks on the sides are so that you can line it up after you have cut some of the holes, which blew my mind. It's like, no wonder that's why they're there. So little pro tip if you ever get one. And then we're in the home stretch here. This really does not take long. They are so simple. They are so cute. And they're just super duper easy to put together. So the little flower bouquet that I'm about to put in here, that's why I'm cutting a little hole, as you'll see, came out of the May 2026 subscription box book. So they all come with a book. And you might have noticed when that scrap was on the table, it had a pattern on the back, and it's so that you can make really fun scraps with all of the things that you cut out of the book. So we are almost done. I'm just going to glue it down and just put a little shadow around it to give it a little bit of depth with my Karen Dash. I think I said that right. My Southern accent. Um, I got the limited edition pastel set, which I just really love the colors, and they go really well with what I like to make. And these are really fun. They're a crayon, and they are also water soluble. So I could have left it like this, but I chose to wet it down a little bit and just kind of mix it in. And it just gives this fun little like halo shadow around the cup and gives it some depth. And I love it. And that's it. All right. I will see you next time. Bye.